Let's begin today's Vanguard news with the Vanguard promo cards for Nova Grappler and Angel Feather. In order to capitalize on the Rotovisor and Liel hype after the release of DZBT-02, Sturdy Hard Puncher has the typical Vanguard skills that makes you countercharge 1 damage and gets 20k shields. If your damage zone has no face-up cards, then you can pay 1 counter blast if you have no cards in soul to give your Vanguard 5k power for that turn. I like how this card skill is in bullet form and making it easier for the average Nova Grappler main to comprehend after using all their brain power in mapping out their 12 attack combo turn. Alliance Angel has the typical Vanguard skills that makes you look at the top card of your deck to either return it back on top or put it at the bottom of your deck, then he gets 20k shields. Then you can pay 1 counter blast if you put the card at the bottom to give your Vanguard 5k power for that turn. Line from Freerun wanted to get away from Ubel so much that he became a business angel on another world. The unloyal Nal and Makoto simps who jumped ship after finding out that Hikari has a less jailbait form can get her sleeves deck box and playmat in June. Meanwhile Skyride Zero Sleeves was totally ignored. Bushiroad must have been busy this week because DZSS01 Nation card reveals are all over the place. Despite Ezel and Minerva having not been reprinted themselves, Bushiroad thinks that reprinting their promo cards would get players to buy a card shop's backlog of unsold booster sets. In fact, almost no one can build an encounter deck unless they got them during the time they were first released. And here's the obligatory useless counter heal reprints for those who love to speculate matchups in a game where best of 1 is the norm. Flameleaf Chaotic Dance Hakasui and Remred is a Dragon Empire and Stoic Area unit card that when placed on rear guard from hand that isn't on the battle phase lets you call a plant token. Then you can pay 1 counter blast to get an effect where all your rear guards that were placed by a card ability get 5k power, or give your Vanguard 5k power. It becomes 10k power instead if you have 4 or more units. Dragon Empire can officially use plant tokens now. What a time to live in. This supports Rarawa and Tamiyura so much that it's ironic that this isn't locked behind the Fire Regalis mechanic. And people say I was overestimating Borrow Mushrooms. Yet here's a card that turns 1 card into 2 10k beat sticks. Whirlwind Dragon War Dawn when placed on rear guard gets 5k power if your Vanguard's grade 1 is lower or equal to your opponent's Vanguard's grade. And while on rear guard or the drop zone, you can pay 3 energy blast and binding itself when your other card was discarded during your turn to add it back to your hand. This card basically made the right deck cycle cards and stride fodder reusable every turn. Because the last thing people need is for their Shiranui opponent to never lose card advantage. Finally, Time Turner Dragon Clockwise when placed on rear guard makes you soul charge 1 card then gets 2k power if your Vanguard's grade 1 is lower or equal to your opponent's Vanguard's grade. And while on rear guard or the drop zone, you can pay 3 energy blast and binding itself when your other card was discarded during your turn to add it back to your hand. Holy shit, this are cycle cards for discards. Chronogid mains just found themselves Gungram or even Brainwash Swirler's replacement, as well as making Gear go to staple now. There's so many Dark State decks that would benefit from this, that this might be the most expensive one out of the bunch. And that concludes this Vanguard news without the bullshit. Special thanks to my Patreon members for continuing to support my content creation. Be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments how Dragon Empire getting a plant token is a reference to a Mirage token.